am ADOS, American Descendants of Slaves. I am a black American, and I am an American. I'm going to present my case in support of House Bill 318, as it is time for my unapologetic truth to be shared with all of you. First, as a people, we need to recognize that it's not just the numbers that matter, but also where the immigrants come from and the culture they bring with them to another country. As a social scientist report, all cultures are not equal. Some immigrants come and believe they can function in isolation, refusing to adapt. They have come to our country for many reasons, but I suggest they must assimilate, adapt to the culture of the country they wish to live in. No country is going to allow people to come in and not acknowledge its constitution, legal systems, and laws. They will not tolerate it. So do you think I can go to another country and set up my own rules to live by, use the language I choose, and then tell that country that you must speak my language? That's not going to happen, nor should it. As a country, the United States has been more tolerant than most other countries. Other countries are making it much more difficult to get citizenship. We have been naive. We have been exploited and abused by the different tactics to gain citizenship in America. It's time to wake up. Global migration in the past was not projected to be as it is today. We must establish new rules to address a distinct type of migration that we are facing in our country, state, and cities. It's time to turn the conveyor belt off and adopt a global migration suitable for the times that we're in. And that is not destabilizing our communities. See, it was my ancestors who came over as slaves, built this country with the strain on their backs. They sweat pouring from their bodies in the rice fields, the cotton fields, and the tobacco farms for this country. Lived as servants and was the footstool, I said the footstool, for far too many feet to step on. So today, if you ask me to line up behind another group of people to raise awareness about their plight, I unapologetically say no.
What's up, y'all? Good morning and grand rising. Oh, I'm going that way. No. In this digital journal, I want to talk about a conversation I had with one of my neighbors. Now, my neighbors, they stay right over there by us. Now, the neighborhood is getting blacker and blacker as we go. So I've been noticing a lot of whites been moving out. You know, once it starts getting overreaching into that 5 or 6 person, a lot of times they start moving around. That's a historical thing. So I'm talking to my neighbors. I'm talking to one of them. I say hello and stuff like that, and it look like they got somebody that you know, they got cousins in town and stuff. And so I said, and they from French Guinea, my neighbors. That's where they people is from. You know, because when I met them and they say, hey, where's your people from? And I said, I'm a black American. They said, oh, okay. And so then what ended up happening was we start talking about, he had a little cousin from France, and I tried to put my head up to him, and my hand up, you know, to give him 5. And he said, oh, he don't speak English, he speaks French. I said, your folks from Haiti too? You got some folks from Haiti? And he said, no. And I said, don't let me guess, French Guinea, right? He said, yeah, because we had that conversation a while back. And so I asked him, you been over there? He said, yeah, man, I've been over there like last year, something like that. And I asked him, I said, so is the French up out of there? Y'all running it and everything? He said, man, listen. He said, the French colonized the hell out of us. He said, and now we got a Negro that's doing the same thing. He said, we got the dictator. It ain't no worse. It ain't no better than the French, than France. So we basically talking about the colonization of France entering French Guinea. And he said to me that they got a dictator up in there. That's what he told me. He said, it's a dictator. It's a black dictator, and he's just like the French. see what I'm saying? So, you know, it kind of brought me into another thought. And I told him, I said, man, you got to get his ass up out of there. And he said, yeah, man. I said, man, they, you know, I said, France owe y'all reparations. He said, hell yeah. And I said, man, y'all got to get that dude up out of there. But, you know, neither here nor there. So we just kind of talking. He walks back, and adorable little kid, you know, that his little cousin and stuff like that. He said he don't speak English, he speaks French. You know, so, you know, but so now it kind of brought me into a different avenue of thought when about this African Union thing, where I kind of looked on the website and stuff like that, and they said, well, it sounds like it's a reparations thing for the U.S. And I'm like, why would they skip over Europe? Europe was one of the main people, especially the UK, and that demonic queen that they had over there, the whole crown, the whole crown family and all that. They was in and all that. They probably still got that gold somewhere down in the basement and stuff like that. They owe a lot. You know what I'm saying? I'm not qualified for that, but they owe a lot. And so I don't know. I see something where they made Spike Lee the ambassador for Benin. So maybe he traced some of his folks back there or whatever like that. I don't know. But now, I don't know if they're doing that to try to set something up so they could get some, but I don't know. But now, if they're going to skip over Europe, and if they think that they're supposed to go again, you know, get it from the U.S., it's like, well, you know, most black Americans from, you know, that trace their lineage to the American South, those black folks that were stolen at one point in time and were sold, not only by the Europeans, but some African tribes. Because see, if they say that, if they open up the convo, we're like, we're supposed to get it, kind of, because we're not, America's a world power. So when it looks at, if you're going to America, the boats came from Europe. 12,000 of them to be, in fact, I believe. There was a sister that was talking about like 12,000. I didn't know it was that many boats. I thought it might have been a couple hundred boats and they just go back and forth. This sister was saying it's 12,000 damn boats. I'm gonna see if I can pull up the video. So now, the first stop should have been Europe. Because if you're coming over here and you're saying, well, I need a check from the USA, then what that does is we were the main force supplier for making the United States of America a world power. Our inventions, our labor, digging the swamps, I mean, any and everything. So with me being able to trace my folks back to 1768, I don't know where they would have got off the boat in the 16 or 1500s. I don't know where that would have been at. That was from Europe. But if I'm tracing my folks back to 1768, I want my paper from right there. You see what I'm saying? All those generations that built this land. So now, if somebody has the idea where they're like, well, because y'all were stolen, we coming over to collect a check based on worldwide. It's like, no, my great-great-grandparents, I'm the descendant of them specifically. They did the work to build this. Now, some might say, well, global would be a good idea. It sounds really good when you really think about it. But that's not logically. It's almost like, well, if Germany pays reparations to folks that was in the concentration camp, you're probably not going to have anybody from Transylvania. Count Dracula's not just going to show up and say, well, you got to pay reparations to me too. That's a different country, right? You literally have a delineation thing going on between South Africa, is it South Africa and somewhere, Nigeria or whatever, or it's somewhere in Ghana where they basically, they delineate. They say, hey, we gonna focus on us and y'all go back home. It's something going on. We're not kicking nobody. Them folks is violently kicking each other out. We can't do nothing about that. Y'all got to fix that over there. Y'all really got to fix that over there. We can't do anything about that. There's nothing we can do about that. So y'all got to get that straight before you come over here and start making claims and saying, well, we need a check. Well, you didn't go through Jim Crow and the black codes and all of that. Here's the thing. Now, I know the white supremacists were the ones that started it. But there was tribes, that Wanga tribe, that Essence chick was talking about, her dad said, well, we just had to sell other blacks because that's what we had to do. She was on a Breakfast Club talking about that. Well, we did what we had to do. You could have said no and been willing to die behind that. But you didn't. So you sold your brothers. So once you sell us, you don't get to come back and collect. No. You don't get to come back and collect if that's the mindset. Well, you know, hey, yeah, we were forced to sell you. So now let's go get a bag off of the labor that the foundationals, that the freedmen that we were designated freedmen from working on this land. Promised 40 acres, didn't get it right. The South got paid reparations, all of that. No, you don't just jump up and just come over here and think you're gonna collect under the banner that we all have African DNA. No. That's not gonna work. I have a grandmother that's 90-something years old, is still alive, went through Jim Crow. Her grandparents, not far removed from the plantation. You see what I'm saying? They did the work. You don't get credit and you don't just get money on the fact that, well, we just all black. No. No, we can't have that. And that's why, and see, this is the thing with Dr. Claude Anderson was been talking about since the 90s, probably since the 80s. We're a specific group. We're a special people. We literally cut our literacy in half off the plantation. These feats and these things, nobody on planet Earth has done what we've done in a small amount of time right here. Our folks were stolen. We had to kind of create our own damn culture in the killing fields of the American South. You don't get to claim that. You could use it as, hey, you know, that's an inspiring story. But you don't get to say, well, I did that. And here's the thing. For those that did not go through because not everybody went through the transatlantic slave trade. Some people stayed. You see, I've heard videos of some folks from Africa that say, well, my people weren't slaves. And I'm like, so how the fuck would you get reparations from us under that banner? You see what I'm saying? There was a prime minister from Ethiopia, and we didn't forget about that. Talking about y'all don't need no reparations, forget about slavery, the white man ain't this, don't be getting on the white man, all that kind of stuff. We're like, okay, yeah. Now they at the African Union trying to get a check under our banner. But the black folks here that's been working and talking about reparations for maybe the last 10, 15 years, you don't just ride the wave and just show up and say, pay me. No, absolutely not. So, you know, they can fix everything they need to fix over there in continental Africa and go down to the UK and be like, give us our bread. Folks want it to be a global thing, and then we end up doing a lot of the work. We can't fix you. If y'all having tribal wars over there, we can't fix none of that. There's nothing we can do. Absolutely not. Are they pulling off? Well, let me see. What time is it? I wonder if I could get it. No, they up out of there. They up out of there. More time. So yeah, they gonna have to fix that stuff over there. You're seeing, when you start seeing, I seen they had a situation where they said Sierra is getting citizenship from somewhere, and somebody I know, a buddy of mine, sent it to me and said, yeah, we gonna get our reparations before y'all. You know, my homie from, you know what I'm saying, his folks from East Africa, he said, we gonna get our reparations before y'all. So I thought that was kind of funny, because, you know, like I said, man, you know, I mean, and so like I told him, I said, well, you know, you was on East Africa, so you know that part of the transatlantic slave trade, that wasn't really, you know, that's over there. The Arabs, them Arabs going to cut you a check. And he's like, no, we want y'all, y'all going to pay. So he was telling me that Americans is going to have to pay. I think he was trolling, because that ain't going to cut it. He said Americans going to have to pay $2,000 a year. Every American. And he said, well, yeah, because of the 43 million stolen Africans. I said, no, it wasn't 43 million stole. It's about 43 million foundationals here that could trace they lineage to the American South. It's about 43 to 50, maybe more. Because some people, that census is, you know, it's probably more. But it wasn't 43 million stole all at one time. Like, this was probably maybe a couple 100,000, or, you know, a lot of black folks went to Brazil. They never did come up here. The biggest population of blacks outside of Africa is in Brazil. And it's a lot in the Caribbean too, you know, but he was like, yeah, y'all ain't getting no check. He says, we gonna get a check and y'all gonna pay $2,000. I said, no. I said, my grandma from 94 years old, she ain't gonna pay. She's not, we not gonna pay for your reparations. I don't know where you get that. He must have been trolling me. Cause I said, because see, now, here's the thing. I said, do you have great-great-grandparents in the Deep South? No, cause see, I'm telling him certain stuff and he don't know. And I'm like, yeah, you don't come from the freedman lineage. You would know these things that I'm telling you. There's stuff you just gonna know off the rip. You gonna know. You gonna know because your grandparents done told you. Your grandparents ain't never had that conversation with you because it didn't happen. And so he's like, nah, y'all gonna pay us $2,000. Y'all gonna pay us $2,000 a year. I said, ain't no way my grandma paying no $2,000 a year for the African Union. That's no. She ain't no way. She see that paper, she gonna throw that shit in the garbage. That ain't happening. She gonna be like, no, I need that Jim Crow check and everything. Yeah, no. No, she ain't that ain't gonna fly. The Cherokee Freedmen, or the Muskogee Nation, has to now, and see, that's the other thing. You don't qualify for that because you would have been on the Dawes roll. If you was from East Africa, you ain't on the Dawes roll. You ain't on the Dawes roll. So them $5 Indians, they've been making all that money in the casinos. And now they done kicked all the black folks out since 79. And even before that, all these tribes a lot of these tribes are ran by $5 Indians. Some people get mad when you say that. You take a look go look at some of them websites. You look at them like, man, this ain't nothing but a white man. And they done Ebenezer Scrooge their way up in the tribe. Some of them pay $5 from now, and then they done mixed, and they done got married with them and all, and they done flim-flam their way. You look at this nigga like, this nigga ain't no native. You looking at him like, nigga, you white. You see what I'm saying? I mean, straight white, you know? But now those were the ones, and they might have just a little bit of, you know what I'm saying? But now they done use that quantum blood thing to the max. And that $5 Indian on the Dawes roll, which none of your black congressional caucus or none of the black politicians, Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, none of them mention the Dawes roll. None of them say, hey, look, man, y'all was enslaved by these folks. They got these casinos or whatever benefits everybody else is supposed to get. You should be eligible for that because that's part of your bloodline. You were on those plantations that those folks owned, and they sided with the Confederate South. No, but yeah, the African Union can't get a piece of that because that's American history. Any more than this thing with CARICOM. I'm not Caribbean, so I don't qualify. He's like, no, y'all gonna pay us $2,000 a month. I said, so you gonna tell the descendants of slaves that we gotta pay $2,000 a month or $2,000 a year so continental Africa can get their check before my grandma and my great-great-grandparents, that slaves literally that built this shit. Oh man, it was a trolling moment. It was hilarious. It was hilarious. But you know, I was just kind of thinking, man, I said, man, if all of those African nations came together, and I guess that's what they're doing now, I don't know. But by way of that man saying what he said about French Guinea, he said that France colonized them and took over. And is that the new bus? I gotta go jump on. France colonized them and took over. And now they got a black man that's running it. So you see what I'm saying? So this is a better idea. This is a better idea. I'm still thinking there's a little bit of hope. Dr. Umar done messed it up for me. But I got a smidgen of hope. I got a smidgen of Pan-African pancake pride. Just a smidgen, just a little bit. Man, they could all come together, fix whatever they got going on, which one of my African homies told me it would never happen. He said, it's tribalism. We will never come together in Africa. I said, I don't believe that, man. I said, I think you guys could. He said, it's too many tribes, it's too many different cultures. And I'm like, what are people shaming us about over here for? Why are people, okay, whatever. We know we're the descendants of slaves. I don't care what some feather hat niggas saying. We know that. You can wear as many feathers as you want. And even if Columbus came before, you know, because that's what they saying in this new Muskegee thing. The dude's saying it was indigenous blacks. That's a possibility. I'm hearing something in his diaries when Columbus said he saw some niggas. He said that. I didn't say it. He said he saw that. So it had to have been some people that he brought on that boat, them Moors or whatever. And, you know, that's worth digging into. But at some point, even if we was here before Columbus, and we know that Africa is the birth of civilization. At some point, them niggas came from Africa. I don't know when. It might have been in like 1300 after death AD or some shit, or like 1400 or whatever. If we were here before the 1492, he sailed the ocean blue. If he didn't know where the hell he was going, still it had to have been some kind of Africa. And see, that's why I'm not willing to give these Europeans the credit. Well, we just showed up on the shores and we found everything. Nigga, you thought you were in India. You didn't even know where the hell you were going, right? Okay, so you threatened to cut out the tongues of your salesmen. Why? Let's just say that is true. That it was blacks. There was some blacks here. Let's just say that. Because that's what the lawyer's saying in the Muskegee Nation. He's saying that he's a lawyer. I don't think he's just gonna throw no cap on it like that. But let's just give him a shred of doubt. If they were here prior to Columbus, at some point, they came from Africa. Much like when you look at the North Sentinel tribe, those are black folks. Where'd they come from? They say that the North Sentinelese has been there possibly thousands of years. I've heard stories that the earth was all one. They call it Pangea, I believe, or something like that. Okay, so as earthquakes, the floods, Noah's Ark, whatever, if shit broke apart, and black folks have always been around the world, couldn't Papua New Guinea or the Aboriginals? I'm not talking about the Aboriginal feather hat niggas that be on the internet. I'm talking about and okay, let me clear that up too. Because there's been black folks like black native tribes out there in New York, whatever. They kept their culture. They do their feathers, you know. So, but I'm not talking about some nigga that gets jumped on the internet. Some old Feather Calloway nigga that just said, well, you know, let me throw a feather hat on and the transatlantic slave trade didn't happen and Harriet Tubman was not those Negroes. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying the Aboriginals from Australia. Wouldn't they have come from Africa at some point? You see? At some point they came from, I don't know when, they came from Africa at some point. Those are black folks. They just got blonde hair. And John Henry Clark, I was watching a video of him where he was saying how people have basically tried to say, oh, well, black Africans weren't light skinned or dark skinned, or they're all dark skinned. That's not true. He said there was black folks of all different colors. You know what I'm saying? I think that's my bus. Let me see what's going on. False alarm. So they got to make their little rounds. I'm gonna have fun with this. So now, my solution is this. But it probably ain't gonna work. Whatever skirmishes they got, because I got another video out. I got another video that I'm going to be doing, or I'm going to be uploading. And it's basically going to have, it's going to show different videos of what people are talking about in terms of this boycott thing. I don't know, the sisters don't seem too happy at all. Yeah, the black American sisters, they're not very happy, man. They're not happy with the service they've been receiving. You know, and I'm not sure if it's because it's been people on TikTok talking shit about black Americans. You know, maybe they feel a certain way, or maybe they just coming out. Maybe they serve the service been janky and they just had enough. I don't think it was just because of the internet or whatever like that. I've been seeing these little videos for a while before the quote unquote diaspora war. It's not no war. It's just basically some niggas that's got a discrepancy with each other. It ain't no damn war. It's not a war. You know, you have folks that felt that they've been aggrieved and they've been disrespected, and they checking it. That's all they doing. That's it, man. You just getting feelings and emotions on this damn app. That's what you're really getting. You see what I'm saying? It's not a war. A war is what I saw over there in, I think it was South Africa or it was Nigeria. I think it was Ghana, and in terms of not Ghana, Nigeria, whatever, that they getting violent over there. We don't have, I'm in Minnesota. We don't have we're not getting into fights with continental or first gen Africans, immigrants, getting into fights and skirmishes. It might be an argument here and there, just some little nigga shit, but we're not sitting up somewhere with megaphones and yelling and screaming and hollering about you need to go back to Africa or go home to your homeland. Nobody's really doing that. You know? Now, if you start talking shit and start saying something about black folks is lazy and we ain't this and we ain't that or whatever, then that conversation might be like, okay, well, if you're so smart, if you work so hard, you might, you know, but nobody's saying, no, there's no groups of black Americans and African immigrants that are having big giant shout matches and fights. First of all, ain't nobody gonna run up to us talking about we lazy or all this kind of stuff. That's not really happening. You know, this is the internet age. That's not really happening, especially here. And ICE been showing up lately too. Oh, folks on their best behavior. Ain't nobody gonna say nothing crazy to us. Nobody's doing that. And for the most part, when you look at like Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, really Brooklyn Park, it's a lot of West Africans there, Liberians and stuff. For the most part, they pretty cool. You know, there's been I do remember, I'll tell you a story real quick. My wife was getting my daughter's braids done, or her hair done. And she had an appointment, so she went to some folks in East Africa. I think they were Somalia or something like that. They had a shop. And I'm just going to put the shop out. Because when we get stuff like this, we got to talk about it. It needs to be exposed, and black folks don't need to spend their damn money there. This was some years ago. You know that Wendy's, because there's two Wendy's on University. The first Wendy's closest to University, and the first Wendy's closest to University and Snelling. Now you keep going down, and then you go over there by that Wendy's by the library. Y'all know where that's at. Okay, so by that first Wendy's, before you get there, there's like a building. It's a big building. It has some African shops, and then I think it has some ESL kind of stuff, and some like nonprofits or whatnot. So now, I think she had an appointment, or she went in. She waited for hours to get her hair done. And these folks, they saying stuff, you just don't know what they saying. And so now, they finally call me up and say they can't do her hair. She gets into her hair. Now, it was some other black folks that were there too, but she said, oh, her hair's too thick, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. But we've been waiting. She's been waiting for forever. That's a 50. Okay, that ain't the right. She's been waiting for forever. She's been waiting a long time. Y'all could have tried that or did that. So now, my wife calls me. She pissed. That's the kind of stuff that sisters be dealing with. And I get it. They feel like, well, fuck that. I'm not spending no more money with you niggas is on that type of time. This ain't the first time, y'all. This isn't a one-time ordeal. Black women been dealing with this shit for decades. They just ain't been vocal about it. And now I get it. They like, you know what? Put my money in my damn pocket. Because the thing is, you ain't gonna boycott. You ain't gonna boycott us. There ain't nothing you gonna shut down. We foundationals. We can, if folks really want to play that war game, we can get spent with each other. We don't really need no help from outside forces. We really don't. We never really have. Historically, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying everything that we've done here, for the most part, we've kind of figured out shit on our own. But now, the West Africans must have seen my wife pissed off. So they come outside like, what's going on or whatever. Now, she goes in there, she tells them what they did, and they're like, what? Now, they were from Ghana, or, they were from West Africa, where our folks would have been taken. Most likely they would have been taken 400-500 years ago from them boats. That's where so they knew what she was talking about. She's like, yeah, man. She said, they told them, don't go to them. They don't really rock with each other like that. I'm just going to be honest. The West Africans and the East Africans, they kind of do their own thing. They don't really rock with each other real heavy like that. I'm keeping it real. They don't really. That's why when she told my wife, she said, oh, no, you need to come with us. That's what she told her. She said, you need to come with your people. Because, they had heavy accents too, but when she told the story, she kind of knew. She was like, okay, no, don't mess with them. And I don't know if they had a problem with each other before, but they look like they don't rock with each other. They just coexist. So, went to the West Africans. Got it done. And they told her that you don't need to mess with them. We know how our hair is. You know what I'm saying? So she was mad about that shit. She was real mad about that shit, man. So the black women online that want to do this August 1st boycott, that's the kind of stuff that they dealt with. But now in my wife's case, she wasn't mistreated by the West Africans that was doing her hair. So now here's the thing. that comes back to, if someone's treating you well, break bread with them. Now, you got some sisters that might feel like, well, nah, I'm just going to go to a black American sister and I'm going to go rock with her. They can do that. I can't tell them that they can't. You know what I'm saying? But no, that was an interesting dynamic. I never forgot about that. I never forgot about that. So, you know, like, and then, you know, them black hair shops could get catty. You know, women get to arguing over shit like that. Usually a dude, he go get his hair cut. It's simple. They got to do all kind of extra stuff to their hair, whatever. So I don't know. You never know. It could be situations where women may be like, oh, well, I don't like this. They just don't like it. They might see some other woman's hair that's longer than theirs that feel like she's shutting me down. And she walk out and her hair look whipped. And then her hair don't be really on point, that she can't do much with it, so she might be like, well, I don't want to pay. You know what I'm saying? The dudes typically don't do that. I've taken my wife to them things and sat in there. Sometimes I had to leave because they just cackling and yeah, so and so slept with so and so, and then they got the LGBT niggas, they got the sassy ass niggas up in there, so they just going. I said, oh, I gotta go. You know what I'm saying? I thought maybe, you know, I could just sit here and just maybe wait. That way I'm about to go. I hop in my car. I said, just call me when you're done. The area she didn't really want to be in alone. You know, I'm like, I'll just sit somewhere or whatever, you know, and then, you know, you come in there and the women just vulturous. They looking because they so catty up in those places. They looking, especially if you a nigga, we got a little money. They like, okay, let me see if I can't. You know, so it's very, very, and the barbershop is a different dynamic. The barbershop, you just go in there, you get your hair cut, they talk about sports, might talk about politics a little bit, arguing about the boxing game, best rap album. That's as far as it typically goes. The woman's salon, that might go into a million different things. You know, you'll get in there. You know, I've heard stories where, you know, sisters go in there and they damn near got an issue. The women that they pay to do their hair be catty. They don't want to work on it. I mean, all kind of shit. Like you just going to get your hair done. Just do the damn hair. You know what I'm saying? But it be all kind of extra little stuff, and they conversations be, you know. So there's a difference. So there could be little skirmishes that we don't know about. But from my look at it and walking into the vibe, it's very tribal and territorial with some of those salons. When I brought her to the salon, I walk in, the women looking crazy at each other, and you know, you might get a badass broad that's badder than all the other ones. Men don't do that. I'm not looking at a nigga's belly and his shoes, and you know, like at a barbershop, you might have somebody that had an issue with another dude. So, you know, you might just have some little nigga shit that could be lingering or whatever. But for the most part, the barbershop, you know, first of all, the men ain't gonna let you do that. Well, you know, if dudes start having an issue with each other or whatever, they be like, man, y'all take that outside. You can't do that here. Especially if there's kids. You're not going to be able to have you're not going to be able to get catty in the barbershop. The men going to shut that down immediately. Hey, y'all, what's going on, man? You know, you're just not going to be able to do it. The men will not stand for it. And other men in the barbershop will probably say something too. Hey, dude, what are you on? They want to keep it a family, cool little environment. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, but man, I don't know how that boycott is gonna go. But you know, like I kind of just be looking at stuff because it's all internet based, really, man. But you know, like, but the internet is a real damn thing. It's not, the internet has a lot of cap on it. It has a lot of propaganda. But man, what people say just don't think that's not what they mean. I mean every damn thing I say on this damn internet. I really do. I mean that shit. People, what they're saying, they mean it. Now, there might be some context that you might need to look at, but for the most part, like, when people say certain things about black folks, and black folks respond, because here's the reality. Yeah, you can let people say things and just go along with it. You can. Because you could be like, well, whatever. It's not really going to change my day. But now, if they keep repeating it over and over and over, sometimes you might have to correct them, because they're not going to do it to your face. They're going to have to do it in a way where they're just not. They know they're not going to be able to, they're not going to do it to your face. That's, so it's safer to do it on the internet. It's much safer. It's safer to just get up on there and say, well, this, that, and the third, and this person or whatever like that, because you're probably not going to see the person. You see, that's why I said some of the people that, because I watch this stuff too. I see what they saying, and some of it could be trolling or whatever, but like I see when people say, well, yeah, we could. Some people said, well, they said something about we'll start a war with black American businesses. What? You ain't gonna get no headway there. I'm telling you, you're not gonna get no headway. You're not gonna get no headway, because there's people that, especially a lot of these Negro professors, or these so-called Negro scholars, that basically said, I see something on an article where they were talking about after black immigrants have dissed black Americans for so long. And that's why I say this ain't something that this ain't no made up just internet shit. There's been an issue. But they said after black immigrants dissing black America so long, should they get involved with this ICE thing or whatever? And most of us was like, hell no. No. But the very fact that was, and this was from The Root, which is a site that used to talk shit about black Americans left and right. Most of those folks that they hire are immigrant coons. Most of them. And LGBT niggas. That's usually who they hire. And they just talk this shit about black Americans left and right, left and right, left and right. So that's one of those kind of little LGBT Democrat funnel places, so they've been doing that forever. But now that black folks have been saying, you know what? You gotta hold your own nuts. We gotta just whatever. We just, hey, since that's been the narrative on and offline, now it's, hey, help us out. Speak out for us. No. I can't be deported. So I know. No, absolutely not. So now people will cop the pleas. So with that being said, when you look at, we could go to war with you guys. And I don't know who the hell's saying that. I think they're kind of you're going to lose. You're not going to win. And nobody's going to win anyway in that. That's not good. It's not going to be good for black and African people. You know what I'm saying? It's not. Shit.